So we're going to be talking about non-renewable versus renewable energies. And we've already talked a lot about the different types of energies that you just took your quiz about. We talked about chemical, electrical, we talked about electromagnetic, thermal, kinetic, and potential. And now we're going to talk more about non-renewable versus renewable energies. And a lot of times you'll see these on TV, and they'll be called green energies, and that's renewable energy, versus other energies called fossil fuels that we've used for a long time, and there's a lot of controversy about these. So it's important that you know about renewable versus non-renewable so that you can have an educated perspective whenever you're talking about it with your family and whenever you have your own family, because these renewable energies are probably going to become more prevalent in your lifetime than what they were in your parents' or your grandparents' lifetimes. So the first thing we're going to talk about then is non-renewable energy. So non-renewable energy is a natural resource that is not replaced in a useful time frame. So it takes a long time for these to be replenished. That's why they're non-renewable. It's not like it automatically replenishes itself. It's not a all-you-can-eat buffet. So an example would be fossil fuels. And fossil fuels are energy-rich substances formed from the remains of organisms. So fossil fuels are energy-rich substances formed from the remains of organisms. And there are three major types of fossil fuels. There are three major types. There's coal, oil, and natural gas. And not the kind of natural gas that seventh graders typically have in the classroom. Boys, keep it together. Okay, so now we're going to talk more about coal. So coal has to be mined or removed from the ground before it can even be used to produce energy. And coal is actually made from plant remains, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. I'll show you a diagram. So let's put that over to the side. Coal is made from plant remains. But coal is the most plentiful fossil fuel in the United States. So a lot of you might have family or friends that live in West Virginia, and West Virginia, that's a lot of people jobs. They're coal miners. Even still today, they're coal miners. And so that's one of the most plentiful fossil fuels that's available in the United States. So it is easy to transport coal. So oftentimes whenever the train goes through Circleville, you might see there have carts of coal. So it's easy to transport via railroad, and it provides a lot of energy when it's burned. But coal mining does have disadvantages. Like coal mining increases erosion because you're mining inside these mountains. So you're taking the insides out, so it can cause some erosion. You have runoff from coal mines that can cause water pollution. And burning most types of coal results in more air pollution than in other fossil fuels. But then what about clean coal? Right? I'm sure you've heard about clean coal. Well, clean coal is a more environmentally friendly way of processing coal or burning coal, but it doesn't mean that it's not still a fossil fuel. So even though it says clean, and you might think renewable resources are clean, well, clean coal is still going to be a non-renewable resource. It's being processed in a better way than regular coal production, but it's still going to be a non-renewable resource because it's made from plant remains and takes so many years for it to actually turn into coal that it's not going to be able to replenish itself as quickly as the renewable resources that we'll be talking about this week. Okay, so let's take a look then at this chart, and we see that we have decomposing plant matter. So when plants die, we know, and we talked about this earlier in the fall, at the beginning of the school year, how things decompose, how you have those decomposers, that those worms that eat it up, right? And then they poop them out, and then you have dirt. Right? We talked about all those things. So it decomposes plant matter, and so you have that plant matter. And then over time, you have something that's called peat. And that plant remains piles up to form this peat, and that can be used as a type of fuel. But eventually, over a long period of time, then you'll have coal develop, and that's developed because of the increasing pressure from the layers of the earth, the sediment, and it's compacted. So it's kind of like when we were talking about slinkies and how they had potential energy and they're compressed. Well, that's kind of what compacted is. You're pressing down on that, and it's making coal, but it takes a lot of time for you to form coal rather than a renewable resource like water or wind.